My good buddy Alex Lancaster, we are going to be talking a little today about your passion, your attempt to revolutionize scientific inquiry and what it really means to be a working scientist.
That's right.
Well, okay, so preach that revolution, brother!
The Ronin Institute, which is an organization that I've been involved in for the last couple of years, started by John Wilkins, who is an evolutionary biologist like me. We're trying to come up with ways for people to continue doing their science, even if they don't get the classic academic job. And we started in 2012, 2013, and we're a handful of scholars, and we're now about 100 strong, and we come from all avenues of academia. We started in the life science, so we're heavily overrepresented in that area, but we're moving to humanities. And the goal is to be part of a conversation about rethinking how, scientists can continue to do their work in the 21st century when the classic academic career track doesn't always work for a lot of people for all kinds of reasons. So sort of one level, we work basically just like any other academic institute. You get a title, you get an email address, you get a website. That's sort of the bare minimum, if you like. Folks can obviously affiliate with us and continue to do their work. We don't provide salaries and the traditional infrastructure of a university, but in these days, people are finding work in many different fields, in not necessarily the thing they're originally trained to do anyway, but they still want to have the opportunity to do high-quality scientific research.
You don't pay researchers.
But we do provide the ability to apply for grants. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and there are several people who have got grant money through the Ronin Institute. So you can apply to all the same three-letter initial agencies like the NIH and the NSF. That's one means of support. Other means of support are obviously people are starting their own businesses. For example, I run a consulting company in computational biology, but I still want the opportunity to continue to do research.
How does one affiliate with the Ronin Institute?
You contact one of us, one of the scholars, send us an email, a simple one-page CV and a bio, and that's pretty much it. There's a little bit of paperwork involved, but it's not like a tenure-track faculty search, which can be a multi-year process.
And it's open to any PhD, I assume.
The majority of our scholars do have PhDs or have had academic training. It's not a absolute requirement. We have folks who have very deep knowledge of their area that haven't necessarily had the classic PhD training. We're open to that too. A PhD in and of itself isn't necessarily a requirement.
What I hear you saying is, to paraphrase former President Bill Clinton, that given the problems that we face around the world, that we do not have a scientist to waste.
That's definitely part of it too.
One of the big issues, certainly now, is the trivialization of expertise. And I want to, as devil's advocate I want to play, say that assuming Ronin becomes a successful model, wouldn't that diminish the power and gravitas of those big fancy universities that the Chicago Council on Science and Technology is so fond of promoting?
I think those institutes are going to be just fine. A lot of great work is done in all these great places, and I've worked in many of them. I do understand that criticism in a sense, because there's sort of feeling like, well, everyone's an expert, then no one's an expert. But at the same time, I think what it really comes down to when it comes to anything in science, you really have to just look at the work. You have to look at the papers. You have to look at the experiments. You have to think carefully about them. I think a lot of times people use institutions and even brand name journals as proxies, because and I understand why, because there's a torrent of stuff and you need kind of like it's like a filter. But fancy institutions have produced some not so great work.
Wait. Are you saying that there's some difference between Stanford and God?
Your words, not mine.
Okay.
I think you just have to look at the work. It's good to have benchmarks and milestones. It would be great to have grant panels and everything be double blind, because it really should be ultimately about the ideas and the work and not about the brand.